How do you get to your $740 million tax number from allowing foreign buyers to purchase? So how did you get there? How did you make the modeling? Really important. So this is this is Jack delving into how did you come up with that number? Tell us about the modeling.
So what we did was we looked at house purchases prior to the foreign buyer ban being brought in, and we looked at the pattern of purchases. Then we scrolled forward and we thought, well, given house prices have now gone up, given the pattern of where those homes were bought in the past, i.e. they tend to be bought in those areas with luxury homes, the Coromandel, the Bay of Islands, Queenstown.
Nice homes.
And given...
Just think about that, though. What she's talking about, think about New Zealanders she's talking about, the people who buy a second home in Coromandel, Queenstown, Bay of Islands. So that's the market. This is the National Party's market. People who can afford to buy a second home in Coromandel, and for those of you who are in the South Island who don't know, that's about an hour and a half southeast of Auckland. Whitianga, Whangamata, lots of very, very wealthy Aucklanders go there. Obviously Bay of Islands, top of the North Island, the Winterless North, and Queenstown down here, same house price average as Auckland does. So this is what this policy is targeting, is that people. And we've often talked about who is the party of the people. It's certainly not the ones that can afford to buy a second house in a place like Queenstown where the average house price is over $1 million. Just saying.
The luxury type of homes and the prices they will be paying, and the effect that will be had once you bring off a ban at the same time as you're getting rid of the effective capital gains tax in the form of the bright line test. What sort of pattern of purchase can we expect, and what revenue can we expect? And we're comfortable that our assumptions are cautious.
Right.
We had them checked by an external advisor who agrees with us that they are reasonable assumptions, and we're confident in our costings.
Okay, so if you have that big model, that grand model,
yep.
you still get two numbers at the end, right? A median house price and a total number of house sales.
He's very good, Jack Tame.
So what are those numbers?
And those numbers will vary depending on what exactly happens.
Well, no, to get $740 million, you need to have a median price, an average house price, and a total number of houses.
Yes, that's right.
So what is it?
Well, those numbers will vary, but we have an estimate in our model for those numbers.
And so what is the estimate in your model?
The estimate in our model is that the average price will be more than $2 million, and that we will sell fewer than 2,000 homes. I want to just focus in there.
No.
She tried to keep going.
The average price is going to be $2 million.
More than
$2 million. So what is the average price going to be?
It's going to be more than $2 million.
What is the average price going to be?
Well, it will depend on which homes sell, and real estate agents are saying...
That's not how averages work. Sorry, Nicola, that's not how averages work.
Oh my God!
Averages work by the number of houses sold divided, the total price for all the houses sold divided by the number of houses that are sold. That's how the average works. It doesn't depend on anything else. She does give out a number, and one has to wonder why she struggled so long to get to the number rather than saying it straight away. Because she said 4 or 5 times, it's variable, and then she gives a number.
This is why we have an average. So what is the median price across all of those homes you're expecting to sell? What is the median price, the average price?
It will depend on exactly what happens, but
Nicola,
it will be about two.
Do you want to be the finance minister?
I do.
You have to give us the average. It doesn't change. The average doesn't change.
The average in our model in its first year is $2.9 million.
So what? So that was either made up on the spot, and I don't think so, but that was either made up on the spot, or she didn't want to give it out because she knew what it was, and she spent 4, 5, 6 attempts not answering it. Why?
She also said, okay, technically correct, more than $2 million.
Yeah.
But $2.9 million, who says that's more than $2 million? Why wouldn't you say just under 3?
Because now what happens is now we've got that number, we can do the numbers, and I have.
Point is a really good one, Jack, and I want you to listen to it.
No. I want to dig into these numbers, and then we'll give you an opportunity to do that. I'll make sure you have an opportunity. So $2.9 million. Okay. So how many houses will you need to sell at $2.9 million?
Fewer than 2,000.
Fewer than 2,000.
That's right.
How many houses?
So one.
Technically it's 1,725. I've done the numbers. It's 1,725 houses, but it's not just that sell below. That sell for more than $2 million. Remember, it's 1,725 houses averaging $2.9 million that sell to the countries that are allowed to pay tax on it because of our tax treaties. Now, previously, like when foreign buyers were allowed to purchase, they made up 3% of the total purchases. So if 3% of the total purchases are still going to be foreign house buyers, that actually means about 60,000 houses have to be sold in total to get to 1725 $2.9 million houses. But there's going to be more than that, because not all the people buying those $2.9 million houses are going to pay tax on that. Because if you're from China, you have a tax treaty and you're not going to be paying tax on that because you don't have to legally. And it goes round and round and round, and the numbers get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And you can just see how it doesn't stack up. But we'll let Jack keep going.
Were sold to foreign buyers in 2018.
My point that I was trying to make earlier, and I think it's really important your listeners hear it, is this. You cannot compare what's going to happen exactly in our market today with 2018 or even with now, because two big changes.
This is actually fair, but that means their projections are based on nothing. Because if you don't compare it to something, then it's just made up numbers. But it's fair to say you can't compare it to these two times. That's actually fair, but that means we're guessing. Because if you have no data to compare it to make your projections, then you're just making stuff up. Because you have to have some reason to make this projection other than going, well, this is how much we need, so let's just say it's this much. Because that's the only other way you can do it, Chewy.
Pat, you're forgetting an important thing when it comes to National Party policy. Babes. It's the vibe.
Don't call me babes. That was so right.
Yeah,
I know we went for a drive in a
vibes,
car.
babe. It's just the vibes.
Well,
let's give her a chance.
Let's give her a chance to share the vibe.
Happened. The first is that Labor has introduced a bright line test, which means that many people
this is
who own
fair,
a second property,
but it means how do
like
you project, right?
Coromandel,
The bright line test
been put off
has been put in.
selling
Absolutely, that's
so
fair.
that has potentially
But that
depressed
means
the
you've got
market
no way to
for
project.
The second thing that's happened is that house prices have increased significantly.
Sure, again, both of
since
those things are
when the
fair.
home buyer was last
So what are your
The
projections
third thing
based
that's
on?
happened
Maybe we'd
is
like to
that
see
we
your
think the
numbers, which
proportion of
Jax gets
people
into
who
at
want
some
to
stage.
purchase is going to recover as soon as you lift that ban.
I'm just doing the maths, okay? So in 2018, before the foreign buyer ban was lifted, how many purchases, as a percentage of overall purchases in New Zealand, did foreign buyers?
I don't have that number right
Okay,
now.
I do. It's 3%, right? So if the average price for houses that you're going to sell is going to be 2.9, I've rounded up to $3 million, right?
Oh,
so if the average price is $3 million, even though in 2018 they were just 3% of buyers, they would have to represent 28% of buyers.
Well,
in that top tier.
So
no. The point is that for your numbers to work, you have to increase the number of foreign buyers almost tenfold
like,
from 2018 before that ban was lifted. That's fantastical.
No, Jack, that is not the
hate
case.
you, Jack.
What actually needs to happen is...
Do you know the thing I like about what Jack said? The word fantastical sounds like it's got testicle at the end of it. So I'm mature.
That when we lift the ban, we will see foreign buyers entering the market. We will see probably much
We don't
more
know that. This is made up.
in that part of the market.
We
in
have no
that
data
luxury
because we're
end of the
ignoring the
market.
data.
The next thing that will happen is that it won't just be houses selling
don't
at
know
that price
this.
point. There will also be houses
Oh.
selling at much higher price points. We're talking...
So what she just said, houses selling at much higher price points, that's called a softball, because Jack's ready for that and he's about to knock that ball out of the park.
$10 million homes.
Okay, so what was the most
$20 million
expensive?
homes.
$20 million home. So what was the most expensive house
this
sold
is
in New Zealand last year?
This is the point.
No,
the
no.
the
What
market
was the most
last year,
expensive house?
I'm not going to compare the market last year with a market that doesn't...
Because
have
it
a
makes our
foreign
numbers
buyer
look
First
bad.
part of 2022 was absolutely gangbusters. So what was the most
the other
expensive
thing
house
that's-
sold in New Zealand last
The
year?
other thing that's important to remember is that last year there was a bright line test applied over a 10-year period, which meant that anyone who had bought their house in the past couple of years knew that if they then sold it, they would have to pay a full capital gains tax on it. So it's not fair to look at that
But you're
market
talking
and
about
say it's
$20 million
indicative of
houses,
what's going
right?
to happen going forward.
You're talking about $20 million houses,
In some
right?
cases, yes.
Okay, well, good news. I've got a photo here of a $20 million house. That was the most expensive house sold in New Zealand last year. Paratai Drive in Bemuera.
So one.
And just check out the interior. Lovely.
One
unspoiled
$20
views
million
of the
house
Hauraki
last
Gulf.
year.
So that
Why
was the
don't
most
rich
expensive
people
house
have
sold in New
taste?
Zealand last year.
That's fucking
$20
ugly.
million that cost. If you sold 50 mansions for $20 million, 50 of those, okay? So not one like we did last year. If you sold 50 of those, and then you got your $10 million mansions as well, and you sold 50 of those, you would still be more than $500 million short of your projection.
But that's
So here's something else, because I did this on Twitter with someone today. Someone said, but what if they were $10 million mansions? So I did the numbers. If you had 10, they need $5 billion of sales. They need $5 billion of sales, because 15% of $5 billion is $750 million. So they need $5 billion worth of sales a year to hit their target to foreign nationals who aren't part of tax treaties. If they were $10 million houses, you need to sell 500 of them a year. Right now, as we speak, Chewy, on Trade Me, there are 26 houses listed for either $10 million or more. 26. That means all of those houses have to sell in about the next 10 days. And then for every other 10 days subsequent afterwards, you need to sell another 26 of them. That's how you get to their number based around that $10 million mark, which they're talking about now. Every 10 days, you need to sell about 25 $10 million houses. Right now, there's only 26 of those in the country, but we need 500 of them to be sold a year if they averaged $10 million a year, let alone 2.9. So this is their problem. Their numbers aren't stacking up.
It's just dreams. Like, this is...
I'm sorry to
and they
give you
get this reputation of the party of, we're the only party that makes sound financial decisions. Labour's terrible at it. The Greens can't do it at all. Where is this reputation come from? They're terrible at it.
Yeah.
They're absolutely terrible at it. Why would you encourage foreign investment into a non-productive asset and then build a house of cards on top of it?
This clip's got 1 minute to go. Let's get to the end of this one clip, because this is the biggest part of the conversation.
over a 4-year period.
No, that's for 1 year. That's for 1 year. We can do the maths right now if you want to do them.
Jack.
No. This is, I mean,
we believe that they're best, and we are very confident in our costings, because we think that there will be hundreds of transactions. Right. We think that there will
thousands.
Be people
you
who
need
want
thousands.
to purchase these
1725.
We believe that we will get the tax revenue from.
Need thousands. She said hundreds. She said the average is $2.9 million. That's 1725 a year, averaging 2.9 million times 725 gets you to 5 billion. She said the average was 2.9. That means you have to have 1,725 sales a year, because 1,725 times 2.9, which is the average, gets you to 5 billion. So not hundreds, over 1,000, nearly 2,000.
And we think that our estimates are cautious, they're conservative, they're based on the pattern of purchases that have happened previously, the pattern of purchases that have happened. In the interest
of transparency and economic credibility.
I'm going to start this again because I want to give it a build up. This is the most important thing any journalist will ask a National Party member, especially the people who are touting this tax cut. This is the most important 60 seconds of broadcasting you will hear this election cycle. Asking about, can we see your numbers? Honestly, it's the most important thing. We all need to listen to it.
Purchases that have happened previously, the pattern of purchases that have happened.
In the interest of transparency and economic credibility, as the person who wants to be the next finance minister, will you commit to releasing your full model?
We have already released the basis of our costings.
The model, will you release the full model that gave you the costings, including that 2.9 median figure for the average house price you're going to sell to foreign buyers? Will you commit to releasing that model?
I don't think it's necessary, because I've released my assumptions. I've made it clear that they've been checked. In the interest of
transparency and as a representative of the party that sells itself on its economic credentials, will you release that model?
I simply don't think it's necessary, Jack.
Wow.